Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience, episode number 271. Our guests have sent us so much swag, books, and giveaways this year. I can't wait to announce our monthly winner. So if you want exclusive content delivered right to your inbox and to enter into our monthly drawing, go to drfrancesrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. That's drfrancesrichards.com. drfrancesrichards.com. That's drfrancesrichards.com, and subscribe to our mailing list. We promise we will not spam you or sell your information. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Once a single mother, unemployed and homeless, ran for a state senate, worked at the Pentagon and for the Department of Defense. Now the owner of Covington's Consulting and Services, LLC. Welcome, Cherron Covington.
Good morning. How are you, Dr. Frances?
I am perfect. Listen, I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Cherron Covington, and my company is Covington's Consulting and Services, providing consulting, training, and services in OSHA safety, employment training, and construction final cleaning. Under the umbrella of Covington's Consulting and Services, I have two DBAs. So the Covington's Consulting and Services is actually the umbrella. It does the consulting, and God just pushed assessments on me in 2019. So now I do assessments of buildings for structural damage. And then I also have my own training academy, and I teach 3 industries: highway maintenance technician, environmental services and warehouse technician, and business ownership. And then my cleaning company, No Ordinary Cleaning, which started in 1994. God gave it to me while I was unemployed, and I started it with $250. We specialize in construction final cleaning and janitorial.
Talk about your zone of genius. What is that?
My zone of genius, I have to give God his props for everything that I've learned, everything that I know, the way I operate my business and run my business. I said I wanted to be a business owner when I was about 21. I didn't have a clue as to what I was saying, but in looking at my biological grandfather's side of the family, the Covingtons, most of them were entrepreneurs and teachers. I never wanted to teach, ever. But to my surprise, God had me go into teaching adults in 2007 when construction went down, got low. So I created an environmental service program and was asked to teach it at a homeless veterans men's center. And that's how I got into the training. And since I've been in Dallas, God gave me the other 2 industries: highway maintenance technician and warehouse technician. So I have to say, as far as my zoom of genius, I do read a lot, but God has been the sole individual that tells me how to do what I do, when to do it, and what to do.
Talk about funding your business. How did you raise the capital if you mentioned you were unemployed and homeless, and to continue to build these businesses to be sustainable and profitable?
Well, like I said, in 1994, I was laid off. My youngest daughter was 4 at the time, starting preschool. And I had moved to Georgia in 1986 for the sole purpose of becoming an entrepreneur. For some reason, I felt like going to Atlanta, I could make it happen. And so, like I said, I was laid off, and I just went to the Lord and I said, okay, I want to own a business. And because I had been behind a desk for over 25 years, my thinking was it would be a transcription service or a staffing agency. It crossed my mind to set up single moms like myself at home so they could work from home. And that way they wouldn't have to worry about babysitting, extra babysitting. But I just went to him and I said, okay, we got bills. And I need you to tell me if being an entrepreneur is not what's going to happen and send me to that job that I need to retire from, I guess you would say, because back then you could retire from a job. And it was like on a Monday. Well, I didn't hear from him all week. By Saturday, I'm taking my oldest daughter. We're starting to look at colleges, which is starting to blow my mind as well. And she fell asleep on the ride. And I say, okay, Lord, what are we doing? Today is Saturday. I haven't heard you say anything. What's going on? And we get to the college and do the tour and have lunch. And then we split up. So I go into a room of parents so I could get the information as far as tuition and what have you. And when I sat in my chair, the room just disappeared. The people were gone. It was me, this voice in my notepad. He literally named the business, told me what I was going to do. Of course, I had questions. He explained to me that I was providing transportation because when my baby girl was 2 weeks old, was the first time I became homeless. And the jobs, the better jobs, were not on a bus line. So I wouldn't be able to get back to daycare by 6 o'clock to pick my kids up. So I said, okay, because when you do construction final clean, a lot of times the road hasn't even been paved. So I understood that. And then he said, provide a meal. And I said, and I'm doing that because, and he said, well, if they weren't with you, they'd be in somebody's soup line. I said, and who is they? He said, hire homeless veterans. I said, okay. And when he stopped talking, I looked down, I had all these notes, and the room came back, and I didn't miss them, and they didn't miss me. I got back home because I had to appeal my unemployment because it was denied. And I got home and checked the mail, and the unemployment was approved. And I was like, okay, so what are we doing now? But as far as funding was concerned, he just made it happen. I mean, when I got the first contract, the contracts in Georgia were small, so I didn't have to hire but about 2 or 3 people. I worked with the veteran liaison at the unemployment office because back then, if you didn't accept a job that you were offered, they took your unemployment. They stopped it. So getting employees wasn't hard at all. But then in 98, when I moved the business to Florida, I got a state contract, which was awesome because that meant a bigger job, more money, and I needed employees. And so someone said, go over to the men's shelter and hire. And I said, what? So I called this particular shelter and only to learn that the shelters have employment specialists. And so he let me come down and let me give my spiel. I ate with the guys, and one guy asked the question, did I hire ex-offenders? And that's when ex-offenders were added. And I said, sure, as long as we know when you have to be at your probation or parole meeting. As far as the funding, that first contract, I learned that construction companies can pay you in advance of $5,000 and then just take it out of each invoice when they pay you. And so that's what I did with that first contract. And this particular company didn't have an office in Jacksonville, but they told me that if I did well on that job, they would take me wherever they go. And so there were some Sundays I would be in there waxing a floor and buffing a floor. And one of the people from the construction company would see me working, but I finished the contract. My workers were excellent. And that particular company, Ajax Construction, actually did take me on every job. I had to bid it, but I actually was able to work with them on several jobs. And so I like construction final cleaning because the money is easily accessible. It's easy to earn it and put it up before I would take a janitorial contract. And I learned in 2004 that to be a Black business owner, I was grossing not just $50,000 a year, but an extra $50,000 a year, which I was told was not feasible for most minority businesses. most Black businesses. And so that I looked at that and I was like, wow, okay. So what do I do from here? As my business grew, I finally got a federal contract and was able to, because I had worked so long in construction, I had the money put up to be able to start that contract. And it really never got a loan. I did get a small one early on when I first got to Florida. But as far as large loans and heavy taxes, I've never had to deal with that. At that time, when I was running my business in Florida, they had what was called the Enterprise and Empowerment Zone. And anybody that lived in those zones that I hired, I received, I think it was either 3,500 or 4,200 per person in tax credits. So I never had to pay taxes because they always zeroed out with the credits that I had. So right now, that's my biggest concern. But since I've been in Texas, I have learned that being a military spouse, I have been included in several programs through the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center. And so the lending is a lot easier for me. I have also learned about business credit, things that I had asked about when my business was 10 years old in Florida that nobody seemed to be able to give me any information about. So, as far as funding goes, it has never really been a problem, but I've never really needed a whole lot, if that makes sense.
Someone's listening and they're saying, I want to get into federal contracts. What advice would you give them?
The advice I would give them is the first thing you do is make sure your business is legitimate. If you're going to be an LLC, get yourself set up through the state that you live in and get you an EIN number. As a sole proprietor, you can get an EIN number, but it still doesn't separate your personal from your business. So make your business an LLC with your state, get an EIN number, and then register yourself with SAM, S.A.M.gov. And what that is a merit system with the federal government, and it puts you in the federal government system. And then this last year, I learned that there are 15 agencies, federal agencies, that report directly to the president, and they each have an office of small business within that agency. So you want to get with that office of small business within that agency and get yourself registered to do business with them. And what happens is they'll actually send you bids that are coming out. You can also go to them and ask them, well, what's your forecast? How much do you plan on spending in what I do this year? And you can get that as well. The Small Business Development Center in your area will help you with a program they call PTAC, and it will not only help you learn about federal contracts, it will actually help you bid a federal contract. Then you also can go and set yourself up in what's called Fed Biz Ops, FEDBIZOPPS. And they actually that's where the federal government bids are listed. And you can go in there every day after you get yourself registered. You have to know your NAIC codes, your SIC codes, and your NGIPS codes. And I also have learned that the federal government, the IRS, has its own codes. For instance, I do vocational education. And so my NAIC code is 611059 for that. But my Schedule C on my taxes says 611000, which is the whole umbrella for education. So you have to make sure that you know that too. All you have to do is go to irs.gov and pull up the SS4, and it'll give you a Schedule C. Pull up the Schedule C in irs.gov. In the instructions, it gives you 2 pages of the codes, which are, the IRS calls them PCS codes. And it's ridiculous, all this stuff, but it helps to know, and it'll show you what your code is. regardless to what you do, whether it's marketing, whether it's real estate, whatever it is you do, it will give you that code. And when you have your taxes done and the Schedule C is done, IRS automatically puts that number there. So I learned that last year. So those, you have to know all those codes and you have to be specific. So when I registered with SAM and with FedBiz Ops, my main codes are for new construction, new building construction, because they have so many things under construction, and then janitorial, and then vocational education, because I do vocational training and rehabilitation vocational training is how they look at it. So those are the four main codes that I look at, that I pretty much put on everything. But like I said, in 2019, I got pushed into building structural assessment. Just received a second contract this year for the same thing with the same organization, which is our public transportation department here in Texas, in Dallas. And God is so good. I'm being sent requests for quotes. So that's something else that you need to understand. RFQ is a request for quote. That means they're only asking you and a few other people to give them a quote on something that they want done. And then an RFP is a request for proposal. So you're bidding against a whole bunch of people. And then a sole source contract is where an organization, whatever it is you do, they can't find anybody else that does what you do. So they will sole source you a contract. They will negotiate a price with you to do that for them. So it's a lot to know, but I have always told people, when you get to that point where you are living, breathing, smelling, and tasting that idea that you think you want to get out there, that will you can make a difference with, go for it. It may fail. You may have some failures before you succeed, because like I said, my business is over 25 years. But when I got to Texas, it was the hardest thing to try and get started here. And God kept saying, just wait a minute, just wait a minute. But at the same time, there were things I needed to put in place. Understand, if you're a minority and buy a franchise, you cannot be listed as a minority business. But when you start your business from scratch yourself, make sure you get yourself certified as a minority business, whether it's a minority, a Black owned business, Asian, Hispanic, as a woman, veteran, a disabled veteran. Those are, even though they look like titles that you feel like would set you aside, but also keep you outside, that's not the case. But at the same time, once you get that certification and you get in, don't make it your business to stay that way. Always look at making yourself better so that you can bid bigger contracts against anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm in construction, and I didn't know this, but in 1994, when I got into construction final cleaning, I was probably one of very, very, very few Black women that were doing that. But I got to where I learned everything I could about it. Make sure you learn everything you can about what you do. If your business is your purpose from God, He will walk you through it, and He will make sure that it shines where it's supposed to shine. If you want to become an entrepreneur because you think you can keep all the money, you have two people you will always answer to, and that's God and IRS. So pay those tithes and pay those taxes. Because a lot of people, I heard a congressman say, and I don't think with all the PPP and the EIDL, none of these lenders and what have you have really looked at this. But this congressman said on a meeting I was in that a lot of small businesses work their business as a job. So if they're the only ones working their business and they're not hiring anybody, or they have maybe one or two people working with them, they're not actually seeing themselves as a business. They're working their job. And I was looking at myself that way myself. And when I got to Florida, I was asked to, in 2003, asked to go into an office incubator. And I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I said, okay, Lord, listen, I have always looked at my business as a means of support for me and my family. If I'm going to be bigger than that, I need to see differently. I need you to help me see differently. And in 3 weeks, I saw myself doing millions in business. I was 8A certified with the federal government. I rescinded mines because I didn't feel it was helping me. I hadn't gotten a federal contract. And right after I gave it back, I received a federal contract. So I am able to say that I can bid and do business locally, state, and federal. So it just depends on how you see yourself and how big you want to get. I see global when I'm helping other businesses, I see global for them, but you have to pace yourself and run your business how it will make you comfortable.
Did you go forward for the 8A certification?
I rescinded it. I gave it back and I see no need to go to get it again because I've had a taste of a federal contract. I did a medical center for Mayport in Mayport, Florida, right outside of Jacksonville. And it was for the Department of Navy. It was so interesting. The day we were supposed to turn the contract over to the Navy, they came in, they went through there, and they hated the paint job. So the painters had to go in and repaint everything. And then I had to go behind the painters and clean up because didn't have time to stop and clean up their own messes. So we all worked till 4:30 the next day before the Navy said, okay, we'll take it now. But you have to understand that when you bid a contract, federal, state, or city, it's not just about you winning the contract. It's about you giving the best that you can give. The Bible says, do your work in excellence unto the Lord. So if you work like you're working for God and you want to really impress him and make him feel good, you'll do that with your business for the people that you receive a contract with.
What is the best decision you've made as a leader?
The best decision I've made as a leader, to always make sure no man is left behind and to uplift, always uplift. I learned that even though I never told my employees or my students, because remind you, I'm working with adults, I learned over the years that anyone that started any type of addiction, at whatever age they started their addiction, that's the age their brain stopped growing. And God helped me to understand that I had to respect that 50-year-old standing in front of me, but I had to talk to him so that he could comprehend at age 16 or 17 or 18 or 21 without making him feel less than. So always making sure that I do unto others as I would have them do unto me, make sure everybody feels they count, and emanate from me that I believe they're excellent. And that's how they handle themselves.
Cherron, I want you to have a monologue. I want you to name the person that you're talking to. The person can be living or not. And this person has impacted your life so much. Who is that person and what are you saying to them?
That person is Julia Jones. Well, Julia Hurdle Jones, my sixth grade teacher. She didn't know this, but the household that I was living in, when I came to school every day, I was told how worthless I was, how I did not count, that I was no good. But in that class, she made me feel like I was so worthy. She always lifted us up, my sixth grade class. She always lifted us up. And then she taught us modern dance, and we started dancing for other schools. She made me see that maybe, just maybe, I could be something worthy. I could get out there and make a difference, if not just for myself, for other people, because I've always had a heart of compassion. I got to do a carnival. I did a carnival when I was about 12 to raise money for Jerry's kids. I raised $46 for MSD. Um, I did a talent show with my neighborhood friends so that we could all go to the movies. We did a talent show, and myself and another young lady did Michael Jackson's I'll Be There. So we raised enough money so that all of us kids could go to the movies and get popcorn and a hot dog and drinks. So I've always wanted to help others. But Julia Jones, Miss Hurdle, helped me to feel better about myself so that when I left my house and at 18, even though I didn't have a clue as to what I was going to do, I was able to go to work as a secretary. I took all the secretarial stuff in high school because I wasn't sure if I was going to get to go to college. So I took shorthand and bookkeeping and all of that and got my first job with the SBA when I was 17 and then went into the Department of Defense at 18. And so with that, every little thing every day became a place where I could tell myself, I can do more than this. I can do more than this. And so I want to thank her. I found out she has a sister that lives in Austin, and I've gotten in touch with her. So as soon as she feels like she can travel and go see her sister, I'll be meeting her in Austin. But she made an awful big impact on me, and it's just hard to say. All I can tell her is thank you, and I've been telling her that now that we're on Facebook together. She made the biggest impact in my life, my sixth grade teacher.
Thanks for sharing that. The word is listening. What is that resounding sound or message that your generation is saying that we should listen to?
You're never too old to start a new beginning. That's what I say. I don't call myself old, I call myself seasoned. I thank God that I'm 61. When I got to Texas and things were just being held up, I was like, okay, Lord, what are we doing? But I kept telling myself in the back of my mind, Kentucky Fried Chicken didn't get his big break till 62. But I was also saying, okay, Lord, you know what? I don't want to wait till 62. Let's get to moving. But in the wake of COVID, he blessed me so much. I was able to do my first virtual class, which this technology thing is just amazing. I didn't think I could do it, but I graduated my first class. But that resounding voice tells me it's never too late. And each start, each new beginning is a new chapter because you don't stop here. My daughters are like, are you ever going to sit down? No. Mm-mm. When I sit down and put my feet up, it's for a brief moment when I go to bed so that I stop thinking. I have me a warm cup of milk with some cinnamon in it. But when I wake up, after I pray, do my devotion, I hit the ground running.
What problem exists in the world today that you'd like to change?
The problem that exists in the world today that I'd like to change. There isn't one problem that I see. There's so much going on. But what I would like to see is everybody's up in arms about the president wanting to make the minimum wage $15. Something my oldest daughter and I talked about is a lot of people would like that $15, but it would take so many other things away from them. I would like to see people be able to work and be self sustainable, but they need some sort of program put in place that will take things from them a little at a time instead of all at one time so that they better understand how to handle their money. I use it with this analogy. I got new glasses, I think in 2017, and I wear bifocals. For some reason, when I'd go down to the bifocal, it was very hard to focus. So I took the glasses back to Walmart, and a different optometrist was there. And she said, you need a progressive lens. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, a progressive lens will allow your eyes to adjust as it's getting down to the bifocal. So there's no problem when you get down there. And that's what today's people need. It's one thing to say, well, they're grown. They should know. If you weren't taught those things, then you can't do those things. I have a program titled Show Me the Money. And the first thing I show is those old books of food stamps. Remember those? Food stamps used to be in a paper book and you got them in the mail. That's what I counted at my house. My mother didn't have a bank account. She didn't go to the bank. I didn't see inside of a bank till I was in middle school. So if these things aren't taught, then you can't expect a person to know. So the thing I would like to see more so than anything is people being given the resources that they need, being taught how to be fully sustainable without being treated like they're beneath other people and that they should feel bad because they don't know, because they shouldn't feel bad if it's not taught. Everything is a learned behavior.
Who are your top two mentors or influencers, and what lessons do they teach you?
Oh, let's see, top two influencers. The first one is my great aunt Florstein, my grandfather's sister. I didn't know this until later on, but she actually perpetrated and started the cotillion in Washington, D.C. for Black girls. She had her own hair salon, more than one. And so watching her, I didn't get to really know her until I got to middle school. Because she never had any children, she would have me come over sometimes. And she just was doing so many things. And I was like, wow. And then my great aunt Dorothy, her sister, my great aunt Dorothy was a teacher. She was the patron of her neighborhood. I've learned since she's passed that some of the important artifacts from her family are in a museum in Southeast DC. And my baby girl got to meet her in 2004. I went home for Christmas and we picked up Aunt Dorothy to go see another aunt, Aunt Evelyn. And so my Aunt Dorothy had retired, but she was so used to working that she took 3 days at the Department of Energy. She still walked 7 blocks to the bus stop every day. She walked up 3 flights of stairs to her apartment. And so I said, Aunt Dorothy, why don't you go into an independent living program, so that you won't have to walk these stairs every day? She said, I'm not old. She said, you ask an old person how they feel, and they take all day to tell you everything that's wrong. And I was like, okay. She was still going. And so I know between the two of them, I get that they didn't know that they mentored me. They don't know just what they gave me, but because they're gone now. But I look at the two of them and I see where I get my strength from and where I get my tenacity from because they never stopped. They never stopped and they made a difference.
Cherron, there are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
A brand and business that I admire and why. Um, I would have to say hair and eyelashes. I don't wear them, but it's just so amazing. The industry itself is huge. And I say that because my youngest daughter, that's one of her businesses. And I've watched her grow in it and I've watched her make a difference in it. And she sells hair and wigs online and you can put it on layaway or buy it on time. I'm like, really? And now she and a partner are looking at putting eyelash vending machines out there. So I have to admire that because I mean, I'm coming from the 60s and I know, women wore wigs. Diana Ross, I mean, she really did them. She always looked good in her hair, but seeing more Black women get into the hair industry and she's branded it. She's got two young ladies that wear her wigs and they put it out there for her. It's just an interesting industry and amazing. It is amazing. So that right there is one that I admire.
When it's all said and done, talk about legacy. How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for helping other individuals start a generational legacy for themselves. Like I said, I hire homeless veterans and ex offenders, and I also train them. And I realized something when one of my students came to me one day. He said, Miss Covington, I see people have attitudes with you and they get ugly with you. He said, and you just keep going. He said, why? I said, well, I learned not to take it personal. I said, and I'm just going to say this. Jesus said this when the disciples asked him, why does he speak in parables? He said, because those who know will get it and those who don't won't. And that's what I told my student. I said, those who want what I'm giving will take it and make a difference. And if it's just one person, that's not just one person that I've reached. That's a family, that's generations, because that person is going to pass that down. As far as my legacy is concerned, I have decided that with my both my businesses, I am hiring millennials and Gen Xers to run my companies when I step down, because regardless of what we may think about them at times, they are the next leaders coming up and they are so innovative. You can't have a business and keep it going, keep running it the way you started it, and you're moving and it's decades old. And that was my biggest concern. But I met a lady who wrote a book called Ties and Tattoos. And it's all about putting your office together, making it so that culturally everybody fits in. And that's my biggest thing. Everybody has to feel like they fit in, everybody has to be a part. I do hope that my grandchildren will take up my businesses. My oldest grandson said he would take the cleaning company over, but he was 4 years old at that time. He is in college, though, for his business management degree. And then my second oldest grandson graduates next month, and he's the IT person. So I'm believing that I will be leaving my businesses to my grandchildren to keep it going.
If you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Okay. The one question I would ask: what made you keep going when people thought you had lost your mind saying you wanted to own a business? And I would say, when you get to a place where you learn, you know who God is. I always knew of him because I was raised Catholic. But when I got to know him, he will give you a purpose. And if that purpose is running a business and that business is to make a difference, that's what kept me going, knowing that my business had a purpose. And it wasn't just something I decided I wanted to do because I didn't want a boss or I didn't want to take anybody else's orders. That makes a difference right there. So that's why I kept going, even though becoming an entrepreneur, I was out there by myself a lot. I had my ex-husband telling me, why can't you be like everybody else? Work 30 years and retire from the government. I think what did that for me, though, my grandmother, my mother's mother, passed away at an early age, and she had worked 32 years in the federal government, but was afraid to retire because she didn't think her money would be enough to live off. So she kept working. And when she got sick, very sick, they forced her to retire, and then she passed. And I was like, you know what? The federal government's not doing that to me like that. I just can't do that. It's been hard being an entrepreneur, but if your heart is in it, you'll keep going. You'll keep going because you will get that break. Like I said, I got here to Texas in 2015. I saw all this construction. I was jumping up and down like Snoopy in the backyard, but God was like, nope, not yet. And so I kept moving. I kept putting things in place to be able to do business in Texas. And last year, he opened that door. Things started happening. And this is the beginning of the second quarter for the new year. And I am getting requests for quotes and not just bids, which makes a big difference. So I'm excited about where the year is going to take me.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If
Okay.
there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
Yes, ma'am.
Your favorite color?
Orange.
Your first job?
I started working at 14. I worked in an office for the city, I believe.
The last movie you saw?
Now or in a movie theater.
It doesn't matter, however you want to answer it.
Okay, I just watched that new movie. No, I didn't just forget it. The guy that played in Black Panther as the cousin, Michael somebody. He's got his own movie that just came out. I watched that the other day. I think it's called No Holds Back or something like that. I like action movies and comedy.
You relax doing what?
I like sitting outside in the sun with nature, reading a book, or just listening to water.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
My favorite singer, Stephanie Mills, when she did Home.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song, Janet Jackson's Control.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Kale in a salad.
Your favorite month?
My birthday, March.
Work out or hit the couch?
Workout.
Cherron, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you?
Thank you, Dr. Francis, for this opportunity. I've enjoyed it. You are amazing. My email is Covington, Covington, at Covington with an S, Covingtons consulting.com. The office number is 469-333-6612. And my website, is www.covingtonsconsulting.com.
Any social media handles you want to share?
Yes, I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And what are your handles?
Facebook is Covington's Consulting LLC. Twitter is CC's Environment, CCS, the word environment. Instagram is new_beginning_55. And LinkedIn is Cherron Covington.
Okay.
Cherron is with a C, Cherron.
Thank you, Cherron. Thank you. That's a wrap.
I appreciate it. Take care and be blessed. Bye-bye.
Bye. Subscribe to our mailing list to receive weekly updates and exclusive content delivered right to your inbox. Go to drfrancisrichards.com. That's drfrancisrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. That's drfrancisrichards.com, drfrancisrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. We promise we won't spam you or sell your information.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.